Hello everyone, our group is going to discuss legends of King Arthur and their allusions in later literature. Arthurian legends are a series of medieval legends and tales about King Arthur and his knights. As we will see, allusions to these legends are extremely popular in later literature. Before we go into the legends, there's a thing that names of characters, and these legends may differ between different sorts, such as Guinevere and Guinevere. So in this video, we stick to the name in Encyclopedia Britannica for standardization. But anyway, it is still easy to notice that these different names are actually the same characters in most cases, because the spelling will be only slightly different in most cases. These two books are the major primary sources for Arthurian legends we use, and unless otherwise indicated, the Arthurian stories we use are according to The Death of Arthur by Thomas Malory, and for the Gawain part, we will use the Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Let's first describe King Arthur's birth, and I will use Jon Snow from Game of Thrones to illustrate how King Arthur's birth is alluded to. King Arthur's birth is a major topic of allusion in later literature. In The Death of Arthur by Thomas Malory, King Arthur was born as a son of King Uther and Igraine. King Uther coveted Igraine, wife of Duke Cornwall. Therefore, with the magical help of Merlin, Uther disguised as Duke Cornwall and had sex with Igraine, thus born Arthur. Arthur was then taken away from the court and was raised up by a loyal knight, Sir Ector. So the key points: royal linkage, born of adulterous love, and hidden identity. On the other hand, let's examine Jon Snow, a prominent character in Game of Thrones, and his birth has lots in common with King Arthur's birth. First of all, Jon Snow was actually son of Prince Rhaegar, a well-respected prince, and Lyanna Stark. Secondly, Rhaegar is considered to have abducted and raped Lyanna Stark, who was already betrothed to another nobleman. So, adulterous love. Thirdly, after Jon was born, he was raised up by Ned Stark, a loyal nobleman, to hide Jon's identity from others and even Jon himself, so hidden identity. Now we come to the effect of the illusion. This illusion first serves to imply the real birth of Jon in the earlier part of the story, when his true linkage is not revealed. And this somehow foreshadows Jon's later ascension to leadership like King Arthur, and the later revelation of Jon's true birth, so that the story gains a greater sense of continuity and coherence. Furthermore, the allusion reinforces the protagonist's position of Jon Snow. Given the influence Jon has in the later part of the story, the author needs to signify the character Jon. So, the allusion meets its demand perfectly, as King Arthur is an extremely well-known protagonist.
Okay, now let's take a look at Merlin and Gandalf, and talk about how they are similar to each other. In The Lord of the Rings, Gandalf is the very first person to start the Fellowship of the Ring, which is a major storyline that leads to all the journey hereafter, and ultimately brings peace of light to the people on the Middle-earth with the destruction of the One Ring that belongs to the Dark Lord Sauron. Gandalf, as an advisor and a supporter of the Fellowship of the Rings, uses his wisdom and magic power to affect the destiny of people in a great extent, just as Merlin uses his to impose influence on the decisions of the king he advises and takes advantage of his magic power to lead to the success of warfares. Now, let us take a look at some key similarities between these two characters. First of all, both Merlin and Gandalf are wizards with great magical power enough to affect the flow of the main storyline. Besides, both Merlin and Gandalf act as a tutor or an advisor of the main character. In Merlin's case, he advises Arthur, and for Gandalf, he supports and guards the Fellowship of the Ring along the journey. Apart from that, both Merlin and Gandalf support the succession of the king. Merlin uses the sword and the stone to help Arthur to be identified as the king, since only the one who deserves this position can pull the sword out of the stone. While Gandalf supports Aragorn, another main character in the Fellowship of the Rings, and crowns him when he is chosen the King of Gondor. Besides, we can also look at the good and the evil allusion to Merlin in the story. Gandalf, along with other wizards in The Lord of the Rings, are called Istari. While Gandalf represents the positive sides of Merlin, Saruman, another Istari, who surrenders himself to serve the darkness, may represent the evil sides of Merlin. Since Merlin holds an ambivalent position between good and evil in Arthurian legends.
Here comes Minions! Spoiler alert. In the movie Minions, the scene of Minion Bob pulling out the sword in the stone and becoming the King of England is an allusion to the story of the sword in the stone from King Arthur's legend. In the legend, it claims that on the top of the blade in the stone, there are words saying that whoever pulls out the sword from the stone is the true King of England. The allusion in the movie is direct, for the sword in the stone is set as a sightseeing place, as you can see in the background of this page, surrounded by the fences, with a board introducing the place. Though audiences can quickly think of the connection between this thing in Minions and that in King Arthur's legend, the two are not very similar except the main theme of pulling out the sword and becoming the king. So how can we link Bob the Minion to King Arthur? Here are some similarities. First, Bob and Arthur both pull out the sword in accident or in a panic situation, for Bob is chased by police while Arthur loses his brother Sir Kay's sword for the tournament. Second, they both pull out not in the purpose to become the king, but both become the King of England after pulling the sword off. There are also some differences. Though adopted, using the sword, Arthur has proved his birthright and nobility, while the Minion Bob doesn't have this dual identity before. Besides, in King Arthur's legend, there is no king after the death of Uther, and England is in a chaotic situation with no real king and everybody fights for the position. On the other hand, in Minions, there is a queen who rules England, and the internal situation is rather peaceful. Though the scene of pulling out the sword in the stone in Minions can be related to that of King Arthur pulling out the sword in the stone, it has different underlying meanings. The movie depicts the Minion Bob's incapability to communicate with people and rule the country by picturing their enjoyings in the solemn and royal palace, so Bob seems to be a mascot rather than having real concerns over the people. Besides, citizens celebrate King Arthur's success because they crave for the king, while citizens celebrate Minion Bob's success because they know this legend and are excited to see it achieved. It's more likely about a legend coming true, compared to the story in King Arthur's, in which he's not only a ruler of the country but also a leader of the people. The act in Minions seems to provide an opposite result from the original one. This irony here makes the known outcome unpredictable, and the contrast makes the film hilarious.
The sword in the stone was broken in a combat due to Arthur's breach of chivalry. In the late life of King Arthur, Excalibur played a big role. Excalibur was the holy sword which was given to King Arthur by the Lady of the Lake, as a substitute of the sword in the stone, or caliber. Excalibur was an enhanced version of it. Here's one outstanding point. Excalibur is an enhanced version of its predecessor, which has probably been destroyed. Excalibur is also a symbol of king. According to Mallory, the name Excalibur refers to its ability of cutting steel. Here comes Thor, the great king of Asgard. Though originally comes from Norse mythology, in the Marvel series, he is also an illusion that refers to King Arthur. Thor could not pull out Mjolnir at all when he was expelled to Earth, since he was not worthy at that moment. In Thor Ragnarok, Mjolnir was destroyed, and Thor, together with his people, lost their home Asgard. More tragically, later most of the people was killed by Thanos. Without Mjolnir, Thor's identity as a king seemed to be gone. However, in Avengers Infinity War, Thor regained his new weapon Stormbreaker on the planet Nidavellir. With the Stormbreaker, he nearly cut down Thanos' head. However, with despair, he put down Stormbreaker and lived as a decadent. Stormbreaker in his hand, Thor is the king, the hero. Without it, or without the qualification of having it, Thor is incapable. So, remember Thor. We will continue the discussion about his legend's relationship with Arthurian stories in the Avalon part. Wait, let's consider another question. Arthur is injured in his final battle, but why? Well, before the final battle, in Malory's version of the legend, Merlin emphasized on the importance of the scabbard of Excalibur. The scabbard protects the sword, and with the scabbard the king wouldn't lose any blood. Later, Morgan Le Fay stole the scabbard from King Arthur in order to finish her trick of making Arthur cute. Though Morgan Le Fay failed, the loss of the scabbard finally caused King Arthur nearly to die in his final battle. Thus, if you meet an important item with a more important complement, which seems to be less important, think of Excalibur and King Arthur. Oh, another point to mention. When King Arthur was badly injured in his final battle with Mordred, he returned Excalibur back to the lake. Excalibur was not something that belonged to Arthur, but an item he borrowed from the Lady of the Lake, from Avalon, from another world, and he was determined to turn this thing back to its origin when he could not use it anymore.
Here comes the allusion of the Lady of the Lake. The role of the Lady of the Lake is quite ambiguous, for there are several the Ladies of the Lake that have been mentioned in King Arthur's legend. Some claim that there is just one Lady of the Lake doing different things, but some others claim that there are several different characters under a same name. And the most famous two among this group are Vivienne, who raised Sir Lancelot and captivated Merlin due to her enchantment to him, and another one who gives King Arthur Excalibur at the request of Merlin, which eventually is returned to the Lady of the Lake after the severe battle between Arthur and Mordred. Here we use the movie Aquaman to illustrate the allusion of the Lady of the Lake and the origin of Excalibur. Before we start explaining the relation and its effect, first recall that Aquaman's name is Arthur as well. Interesting, huh? In this analysis, we view Excalibur as a characteristic within the Lady of the Lake. Here are some similarities. First, Excalibur was given to King Arthur after he broke his sword during a fight with King Pellinore. Aquaman acquired the trident after he broke his mother's trident during a fight with King Orm, his half-brother. Second, Excalibur has magical power, the ability of his scabbard to heal wounds. The trident has magical power as well, which can connect all marine creatures and have the significance of commanding Atlantis. Third, Excalibur is given by the Lady of the Lake, who can be seen as one who protects and preserves the sword. The trident is originally held in the hand of King Atlan and guarded by the monster Carathan. There are also some differences. First, Excalibur is given to King Arthur by the Lady of the Lake. However, in the movie, Carathan allows Aquaman to test if he has the power to grab the trident from King Atlan, which is different from directly giving him the trident. Besides, at least in the movie, the trident is not given back to Carathan or the lake or King Atlan. In my personal opinion, I think the trident in Aquaman is a combination of the sword in the stone as well as Excalibur acquired from the Lady of the Lake. First, in the movie, introducing the monster Carathan, Atlanta, the queen, says that the creature will only allow its true king to pass, while in the story of the sword in the stone, there is a line on its blade saying that whoever pulls out this sword from this stone is the true king of England. Therefore, the trident and the sword in the stone both have the significance of proving the legitimacy of the king. Besides, the monster Carathan says no man has ever freed the trident from Atlan's grip, which is also the same as the situation of nobody can pull out the sword in the stone except King Arthur.
Don't let it be forgot that for one brief, shining moment there was Camelot. Arthur was the king who wouldn't be forgotten by his people, and President Kennedy will also be remembered forever as a great president by American people.
King Arthur is the central character of the whole legend, and we will see that King Arthur's figure is alluded to in Shu Oma, the protagonist of Guilty Crown. First, let's see the key points of King Arthur's story. According to Thomas Mallory's The Death of Arthur, King Arthur had a legendary birth, as described before, and he became King of England by pulling out a sword in stone. He married Guinevere, a kind, beautiful, noble woman. He was cuckolded by Lancelot, a tall, strong, glamorous knight working for Arthur and a friend of Arthur. This is known as the love triangle. Arthur once lost the sword in stone in a fight, but later he regained a stronger one, Excalibur. He also had sex with his sister, Morgase. Moreover, Arthur had a magical guide called Merlin, and Arthur himself was a very good king. He suffered from hostility from his sister Morgan throughout almost the whole story. In the end, he was betrayed by Mordred, his son, and was sent to Avalon by Morgan and other fairies. Here, we shall see that Shu Oma, protagonist of the Japanese anime Guilty Crown, is an allusion to King Arthur. First of all, Shu lived in a world of general disorder, a future Japan devastated by a kind of virus, pretty much like the divided, anarchic England where Arthur passed his childhood. Second, Shu is an unknown son of an important scientist, which is similar to Arthur being the unknown son of King Uther. Second, Shu, in the beginning of the story, quite accidentally gained a kind of superpower called the King's Power. This superpower is first shown in the story when Shu pulled out a sword out of a girl's body. The allusion to swording stone is very obvious here. What's more, he was also elected as president of the student union in the later part of the story. Clearly, the author is saying that he's like the King of England. There are more similarities. Shu is in love with a kind, beautiful girl, Enaid, just like Arthur and Guinevere. Also, Shu for a moment misunderstood that Enaid was in a relationship with another man who is tall, strong, and charismatic. He was not cheated actually, but this has the similar effect with Arthur being cheated. In addition, Shu once lost the king's power, but later regained a stronger version of it. which is similar to Arthur's losing his sword stone and later regaining the Excalibur. Also, Shu's elder sister was madly in love with him. That sister was so crazy that she became the antagonist of the whole story. This shall remind us of Arthur's relationship with his two sisters. Last but not least, he was betrayed by his friends and dethroned from the position of President of Student Union, which resembles Arthur being betrayed by Mordred. And there are still more. Let's examine the character's name. Name sometimes has great importance in literature. First, if we reverse the first two syllables of Shu's family name, the first is O and the second is U, we will get Uo, which means king in Japanese. Furthermore, his name Shu means to collect in Japanese. Therefore, this clearly indicates a unifying king figure as King Arthur was. So why does this allusion matter? King Arthur is Shu, so what? This allusion relates to the theme of the Gilded Crown actually. First of all, it's somehow ironic as in the beginning of the story, Shu is certainly not that kind of ideal leader as King Arthur was. Shu in the beginning of the story is a plain, sentimental, undeciding introvert high school student. This forms a dialogue with the legends of King Arthur and all the legends with similar kinds of protagonists. The author of Gilded Crown challenges these stories by saying that their protagonists may be too idealized and are not likely to be seen in common life. In addition, the allusion to King Arthur strengthens the internal conflict within the character Shu Oma, between the commonplace high school student and that Shu was and the leader figure that the outward circumstance demanded him to be. The allusion to King Arthur only implies how good a leader Shu should have been, stressing the conflict. This great conflict pushes the plot forward when Shu tried hard to become a decisive, strong leader figure and when he struggled to balance between kindness and cruelty during his rule as the president of the student union. Then, let's examine how Guinevere, Queen of Arthur, and Lancelot, Knight of Arthur, are alluded to in literature. Again, we are using examples from Game of Thrones. Guinevere, first of all, is daughter of King Leodegrance, who is a powerful man. She is also a kind, beautiful queen. For another, Lancelot is a tall, charismatic, strong knight of King Arthur. He once went on the quest for the Grail, but he did not get the Grail because he was not pure enough. Then their most famous act in the story is naturally adultery. This caused great trouble to Arthur. When they were caught, Lancelot fled to France, and Arthur left his kingdom to chase him. So Mordred rebelled, and Arthur died. Causing such great trouble, Guinevere did not want to meet Lancelot anymore, so they broke up after the war. Cersei and Jaime from Game of Thrones resembles Guinevere and Lancelot in a way. Cersei was queen of King Robert in the story, just like Guinevere being Arthur's queen. She was also daughter of a powerful man, Tywin Lannister, while Guinevere was daughter of King Leodegrance. Especially, both Cersei's husband and Guinevere's husband have illegitimate sons. On the other hand, Jaime was knight of King Robert, and he was also tall, strong, charismatic, seemingly a perfect example of chivalry, just like Lancelot. They also committed adultery and caused war on their country. The expressive impact of this allusion is also extremely ironic. Although Guinevere cheats on Arthur, she is still generally a good person. Similarly, Lancelot, despite his crime, is still a good knight. However, Cersei and Jaime are far worse than their counterparts. They are far crueler, more arrogant, and they can do any evil deeds to secure their positions. Overall speaking, the adultery between Cersei and Jaime is far darker than the adultery between Guinevere and Lancelot, which is still considered as a beautiful tale, even if it's adultery. Through this ironic reference, similar to the last instance, the author challenges Mallory's depiction of a medieval court and a romantic adultery. Generally speaking, what the author is saying is that the medieval court was far nastier than as depicted in tales and legends. In real medieval court, the courtly love is still adultery in essence and may accompany serious political disaster, which is true. Additionally, through this reference, the author is pointing out a new perspective towards the adultery and incest, by the way, of Cersei and Jaime that, ironically, although they are very bad people, their love is true, like the love between Guinevere and Lancelot. This is another irony that causes a striking effect on the readers, who may start to feel compassion towards these evil guys. This is somehow adding more depth and shades to these two characters. Now we come to Sir Gawain, and we will show that Frodo Baggins in Lord of the Ring is an allusion to Gawain. Gawain is the protagonist of the verse story Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Gawain was a knight of King Arthur. He was challenged by a Green Knight, whose true name is Bersilac. On the Christmas Eve, that Gawain shall go to a green chapel and receive a blow by axe a year and a day later. So Gawain went on a quest for the Green Chapel and the Green Knight and had lots of adventure and challenge. Finally, he was received lavishly in Bersilac's castle, where he was tempted by Bersilac's wife 3 times as a trial for his virtue. Gawain rejected 3 times, however, Gawain accepted a gift from Bersilac's wife in the last time, which suggests a mild treachery. As a result of this mild treachery, his neck was hurt for a little bit during the blow by axe. Frodo, protagonist of Lord of the Ring, is an allusion to Sir Gawain. Frodo was assigned the task of going to the Mount Doom and destroy the ring there, which is similar to Gawain being challenged to go to the Green Chapel. Frodo and his friends went on a quest full of danger and challenge for Mount Doom, which is similar to Gawain's quest. Frodo was also tempted by the ring throughout the trip, like Gawain being tempted by Bersilac's wife. And Frodo finally could not withstand the temptation and took on the ring at the Mount Doom, and he paid the price by losing one of his fingers, similar to Gawain having his neck mildly hurt for accepting the gift. The allusion to Gawain connects the Lord of the Ring to the story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Through such connection to such a well-known story to Sir Gawain, the author highlights the theme of resistance towards temptation in Lord of the Ring, as we see that Frodo needs to combat the temptation of the ring, while Gawain needs to combat the temptation of the lady. Morgan Le Fay is also a key topic of allusion in the Arthurian Legends. One example of such allusion is Melisandre from Game of Thrones. First of all, Morgan Le Fay was an enchantress, and she was also the elder sister of Arthur. In some sources, she had the ability to change her appearance, and she was both antagonistic and positive towards Arthur. She once stole Arthur's protective scabbard and caused his death indirectly, but she was also the deliverer of Arthur to Avalon. She was also highly sexual, once seducing Merlin, Lancelot, etc. In some later adaptations, she had sex with Arthur. On the other hand, Melisandre from Game of Thrones is an allusion to Morgan Le Fay. First of all, she was also an enchantress, and she can also change her appearance using a ruby to disguise as a young woman. She did many bad things in the series, including burning innocent people as sacrifice. Well, she also revived Jon Snow, the protagonist, so she was both positive and negative. She was also highly sexual, trying to seduce many characters, including the protagonist. The allusion to Morgan Le Fay first serves to stress on Melisandre's personality as a mysterious and partly evil enchantress. When readers think of Morgan Le Fay as they read the description of Melisandre, Melisandre's mysterious figure is effectively established. Moreover, this allusion foreshadows Melisandre's positive influence on the protagonist in the later part of the story, when she revived Jon Snow and did many other positive things. This adds more unity to the story and lends more controversy to the character Melisandre. Now we come to Mordred, the antagonist of the whole story, and how we will describe how Tyrion from Game of Thrones alludes to this character. So Mordred, son of King Arthur, he was predicted to destroy Britain. Due to this reason, all the children born in the same month he was born were drowned in the sea except for Mordred himself. Mordred later became a knight of King Arthur after he grew up. He rebelled against Arthur and tried to take Guinevere as his wife. Mordred and Arthur perished together in the end. And now we come to Tyrion, but let's examine the fathers first. So Tywin, father of Tyrion, and Arthur, father of Mordred, are both powerful and successful leaders. And so Tyrion, son of Tywin, and Mordred, son of Arthur, they are both unfavorable as a child. Tyrion was a dwarf, and he was indulging in prostitution and drinking. At the same time, Mordred was predicted to destroy Britain. So when Tyrion grew up, he became an officer in service of his father, while Mordred was a knight serving his father. Both of them lacked fatherly love, and Tyrion later killed his father and went into exile, which is kind of similar to Mordred's ending. Through this reference, the author is stressing the tragic nature of the story of Tyrion. First of all, by linking Tyrion to Mordred, a well-known evil figure, the author highlights the evil of Tyrion's action of patricide. On the other hand, in Tyrion's nature, Tyrion was a good man, as evidenced by his generally friendly approach towards other characters. Therefore, when the author describes how Tyrion as a kind person in nature comes to do evil deeds like Mordred due to persecution from his father, the allusion to Mordred increases the tragic effect of Tyrion's story.
Percival is another popular knight figure in Arthurian legends. He was one of the knights who were sent to find the Holy Grail, and he was distinguished for his innocence. Sir Percival was one of the 3 knights who eventually find the Holy Grail in the legend. Basically, his adventure is a quest within which personal growth and realization are. Interestingly, during this adventure, Percival went to heal a wounded man called the Fisher King. However, due to his too many questions to the Holy Grail, he failed to get the answer of how to heal the Fisher King. The main character Roi in the film The Natural is a good allusion to Percival. Roi was told to be a farmer, but actually wanted to be a baseball player. 16 years later, Roi became the pop fisher in his team called Knight. As Percival cannot realize his true aim of asking questions to the Holy Grail and failed to become the Grail hero, Roi could not believe his failure and gets shot. Percival grew during his quest, and Roi also realized his own goal later in the movie. There's also a film called The Fisher King, which tells a story about a man called Jack went to find Holy Grail in order to regain his normal life. He also didn't believe the Grail he heard about was true at the very beginning. But after Jack successfully found the Grail, in the end of the movie, he was actually healed by it, and he went back to his normal life. The illusion of Percival and the Holy Grail in these two films adds significance on the personal growth towards the best self of the protagonist. What's more, producers of this film used this illusion to construct their own opinion about what is the true goal of the quest. Maybe the best self, maybe an ideal life, maybe mental healing, and maybe so on things.
Okay, let's start talking about the Philosopher's Stone in Harry Potter and the Holy Grail. In Harry Potter, the Philosopher's Stone is hidden behind several different enchantments, the last of which hides the stone in a room with a mirror of Earth, which had the magical power to reflect what people want most. In Harry Potter's case, he sees his family in the mirror. In a way, it resembles how Holy Grail chooses people regarding religion. But how is that important? In this enchantment, people need to be qualified to get the stone. Those who want to take advantage from it, such as acquiring immortality, turning iron into gold, are not qualified. Like Voldemort, who wanted to rebuild his body for his evil purpose, is rejected, while Harry Potter, who is purposeless and pure, is able to obtain the stone. In a way, Harry Potter's story resembles the search for Holy Grail. Numerous knights set off to find the Holy Grail. Only 3 of them achieved the goal. Among the 3 knights, Sir Galahad is chosen by the Holy Grail for his purity, just as Harry Potter does when it comes to the Philosopher's Stone in front of the Earth mirror.
Nearly killed in the final battle with Mordred, King Arthur was sent to Avalon, a mythical island in Arthurian stories, for healing. Avalon was surrounded by mist and ruled by Morgan Le Fay and her sisters. In the story, Arthur was dying and later sent to Avalon in a barge by water, and the great king was believed to return one day. Avalon was a utopian where lived the magical people, and thus was considered the gate to heaven. In addition, the isle was also believed to be the location where Excalibur had been made. So, here's the outstanding features of this isle. First, it was a secret island which was surrounded by water and thus should be reached by a boat. Second, it was the destination of dying people, and it was the place where people regain life and return. Third, it was where holy items were forged. The novel The Great Blue Yonder by Alex Shearer tells the story about the soul of a boy called Harry saying the final farewell to his family with his unrealized wish. During his returning trip, another boy who had been dead for a long time helped Harry a lot as his guide. In the last chapter, after Harry finished his last wish, the 2 boys went back to their destination, the Great Blue Yonder, where all the souls jumped into the vast ocean to get their rebirth. Souls going to rebirth to dying people regaining life and going to return. Ocean to surrounding water, and guess what? The guide boy's name was Arthur. This allusion gives a beautiful, peaceful, meaningful episode to this touching story. There are also many examples focusing on its being the origin of holy items. Let's think about Thor's story further. In Avengers Infinity War, even the name of the planet where Thor got his Stormbreaker indicates that this place is probably an allusion of Avalon. The planet is called Nidavellir. Okay, I admit that this name actually comes from Norse mythology and has merely a few things to do with Avalon. On Nidavellir also lived the dwarves, magical people who was considered great smiths and craftsmen. But it still has nothing to do with Stormbreaker, this fictional holy weapon. So, if you ask for more evidences, I would like to confidently talk about who Thor is, a king, why Thor needed to get a new weapon. His Mjolnir was destroyed, how he got there, by a spaceship, the boat in the sea named Cosmos. What did Thor do later? Return and avenge, and so on. I believe you know who Arthur was, why he needed a new weapon, how to get to Avalon, and blah blah blah. I'm sure you know that the allusion of Arthurian legend in the story of Thor helps to emphasize his identity as a king, his life as a legendary, and his spirit as chivalry.